This is the culmination of the experience, the 5Ts experience. We are grateful that St. Mary's was kind enough to include us in this grant. We got training out of it. We got equipments out of it. What we are going to do today is share our experience, what we learned, and how that impacted our teaching to the extent that we have used it.
My name's Rachel Osey, and I did not do the 5Ts grant this year, but I did last year. And last year I learned about blogs and wikis for the most part. And I really like the idea of using a classroom blog. However, for most of my students, they don't actually have regular internet access. So using a classroom blog was seemed like more work than it would actually be worth for my students. And with wikis, there's a whole lot of things that were blocked on my school computers, and trying to get stuff unblocked all the time was more challenging than it was worth as well. But it was a good review of stuff that I had learned before in technology classes, and I really appreciate the opportunity to use stuff like the flip camera and other resources that we got out of it.
My name is Harrison Bachman. I also did the blogs and wikis grant last year. I did not participate in the technology grant this year. I am a middle school and high school special ed teacher. I ran into some of the same issues with student internet access at home. About half of my students don't have it, and so to have a classroom blog or a wiki would be hard because only a small portion of the students could contribute. However, a few other people in the special ed department had some resources from the grant, like HD cameras and things like that that we were able to use in the classroom. That was actually very helpful. Students were not only interested in using the technology because it was very hands-on and they were able to manipulate it, but it was good for students to create something and then be able to see and hear the videos or the stories that they had created. It required them to produce a lot of basic conversational English, which for several of my students who are very low was really good. So some of the technology resources that we received, we were able to use in my classroom.
Okay. My name is Abir, and I teach 6th grade English and math this year. I taught 5th grade last year, and for both years, the main thing for me was the websites. So some of the websites were really helpful because with the smart board, they were interactive, so I was able to use them either as small groups or a whole class activity. And for some where it was for just individual students, I got the idea, and some of them I modified and then just use it for whoever needed to, the interactive board, but for other groups, they did it paper and pencil. But it was really helpful to get the ideas from the websites. Other websites were very helpful with math drills and worksheets, just as an extra resource for the kids who were kind of struggling in certain areas. For science last year, some of the kids really enjoyed going on some of the websites that were interactive, just for scientific experiments that were just for fun for them, but it kind of helped them understand some of the concepts that they were struggling with. So mainly, the main thing I benefited from was the websites this year and last year.
Lanier. I teach 5th grade. I taught 5th grade last year as well, and I participated in the grant last year as well, not this year. For me, the 5Ts grant was helpful when looking for math websites. Some of them I found related to using the smartboard and interactive websites to keep students focused and not just looking at the same thing or a lesson that I write or whatever the case is. Just another source for students to see. Also, the blogs and the wikis for myself was pretty helpful. I thought that if teachers could design their websites and kind of display them on our school website, it'd be more helpful so that families and things could find out more about you, and then they could access their works that they created in class. So if we had that option here on our website, I felt like that'd be more helpful. Even at the 5th grade level, it'd be very helpful. But otherwise, for me, I mean, the the smartboard, just digging around and finding more websites about smartboards was the biggest help for me by far. Thank you.
I teach third grade reading and social studies. I also participated last year. Like Scott and Lori, I found the websites the most helpful. I try to use websites that I could use on my smartboard with my students. When it came to the blogs and wikis, I found an interest in looking for blogs and wikis that I could look at, that teachers wrote on that about websites and what was helpful to them, or lesson plans that they came up with, or activities. So I found that blogs and wikis were more for me to use instead of my students. Just like Lori said, they're not ready for it in third grade, I don't think. So the websites were the most helpful for me.
My name is Elliott Cole. I'm a second grade teacher here. I participated in this last year, the 5 Ts, and what I liked about it mostly was I'm going to repeat a lot of things people have already said, but the wikis and the blogs. I mean, I know what they both are, but it was helpful to have a better understanding of how to create them and how to use them, so that eventually I can apply them to my classroom. Honestly, I'm a second-year teacher. There's a lot of things that I confront on a day-to-day basis to make sure I'm being the best that I can be. And I feel like a lot of the things I learned will be great things I can extend to my students as I become more familiar with what they're learning each day and things like that. Better ways to sort of differentiate what they're learning, different ways that they can interact with the information, using the video cameras, things like that. Once I figure out how to trust a second grader with something like that, then I will certainly go ahead and do it. So it's a lot of food for thought, I would say. A lot of stuff that I think I can definitely use as I become more adept in the classroom. And the websites are great, too. I know we've mentioned that already. It's always nice to find other ways of engaging them other than just the things that we have in our building. So it was certainly useful.
My name is Brenda Hassan, and I'm the K-2 team leader. And from the 5 Ts program, I learned a lot about technology. I'm basically illiterate in a lot of technology, new technology today. So this class kind of really informed me about what's out there, what's available for educators to use and utilize. So some of the websites I enjoyed viewing and finding out about. What I found most useful, maybe for some of my team, being K-2 too, is the like the virtual field trips, when you can kind of go, I guess it's Google Maps or Aerial or something. But I think that would be grand, to show students places and that they probably won't be able to get there. But the visuals of it, I really thought was very enlightening. So, and maybe at the end of the school year, I would like to see some of what I've learned shared. I'd like to share with some of my team members and see if they can utilize it in their classrooms. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pamela Mana, and 4th grade teacher here at Higher Ground. This year I did participate, and last year I participated in the 5 Ts grant program. One of the things that I really noticed last year, I was more hesitant to look at blogs and wikis, and this year we had the digital storyboards. It was really exciting to me to see the children really working on a piece of writing, and it was their work. And then they get to, in turn, put it on a site. They have a pen name. It's anonymous. They don't know who they are. And these children got to come, all their information came streaming back to them from all different parts of the world. A bunch of different students, they have the audience to view, and they really got some good feedback. And they shared it with us, the kids, and it was really fun and interesting to see the lower elementary kids kind of taking part of that. And I'm really interested in having my kids start something like that, to have an exchange with, so their own work is very important to them, and it's not just for me or the teacher or mom and dad to view and look at, it has a wider audience. And also another thing that we did this year too, we did the Prezis, and that's a new PowerPoint that was really interesting to me, to really grab kids' attention, to look. I use PowerPoints for vocabulary, and to really get them, it's interactive with the whiteboard, and I really would like to integrate it. It's been a little challenging to look at, see how to work it, but it's been just looking at the different sites, and we have a new link too for educational sites for teachers. That is a really good tool. It's not just for kids, but it's for us for developing some curriculum and some different things that were really good. That St. Mary's did a really nice job of presenting for us to show on that 1 week, and it was really educational for me, and I've enjoyed it, and I want to take all the links and make sure I save it. I've been saving them in my personal files so I can use them, and I'm excited for next year to come. And Delicious.com was one of the big connections I noticed between all the really different kinds of things that they're using in technology today. You can get those things from Delicious.com. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason Ness. I'm a middle school math teacher. Should know my subject by now. There are two main things that I got out of the 5Ts grant, as well as with the other professional development that I've received, and that is the use of interactive media as well as shared documents. And the shared documents I mainly use on the management end of the spectrum. Currently, I have a spreadsheet for one student, and that's shared between me and his parent. And he's also on the spreadsheet as a viewer only, so there's clear communication between me and the parent, and that's reciprocal without filling up our inbox. And the student can observe that without being able to change any of the observation notes, and that's been very helpful in improving his performance, and as a result his behavior in class has dramatically improved, and he's gone up 2 grade levels actually because of that clear communication and making that sustainable for me as an instructor to communicate with the parent rather than having him come in all the time or having to call home with every single issue. So that's been helpful. As for the interactive media, it's been really effective in engaging our kinesthetic learners as technology has made its way in, especially with Web 2.0 elements and social media. The attention span of our students has narrowed more and more because they're under constant stimulation. So having interactive elements of a textbook or being able to link the textbook to an interactive website has been very helpful, and being able to visually demonstrate concepts, especially in math where the temptation is just to do it rather than fully understand what the concept is, and being able to pause and stop and wrap their mind around a concept such as slope or the Pythagorean theorem with interactive elements through the use of a smartboard. One other final element that I found very impressive was kind of the cool factor with students, and whether that's on an individual computer or on the smartboard. I've really noticed that it increases their problem-solving resilience because there's this perceived sense of non-permanence with working on a smartboard or working on a computer, and they're more likely to try things. They're more willing to make mistakes because they know they can just erase it and move forward from there versus writing it down on paper. There's this perceived permanence with paper and pencil rather than with technology, so they're more willing to be adventurous and try things and learn from their mistakes rather than feeling like they have to get the right answer with pencil or paper. So that's been wonderful to work with, and I'm excited to take the gains with the students further.
I'm Katherine Pulley, high school English. I was part of the grant last year. This year I started for a couple months and then I ended up discontinuing, mostly for time reasons. But I did find it really helpful last year. It started out, the program started out slow, but as it went on, it got more organized and I managed to get more out of it. Mostly what I found helpful was the exposure to all the different types of technology that I hadn't really thought about, or I hadn't thought about them in terms of how to use them in the classroom. One of them I did actually end up using a little bit. I made a blog, and what I used it for was MCA practice. I'd like to be able to expand it at some point. I know a couple students did say they checked it out, but again, there is the issue of students either not wanting to use the internet for such uses or not having the access. You know, at that point, I made it optional. Maybe in the future, I would try to make some things on there required. Especially at the high school level, it's something that they should be able to get a handle on, especially if they're going to college. They're going to need some of those skills, know how to upload things, make posts and discussion boards. More and more, that's going to be required of them. The other things that I'm thinking about for the future that I'd really like to use were the audio and video programs, especially to have kids be able to do a performance or a recitation and be able to post it, or even for students who struggle a little bit language, for them to have an audio version of a text for them to be able to listen to at their leisure. Those are things I can see myself using. There are websites that I learned about that I think will also be helpful in the future. And for the most part, it's something that I want to use more of, but sometimes it is hard to transfer over from the comfort level of, the workbooks and the textbooks and all that. And it's one of my goals for the future.
At the rate technology is expanding, it's difficult for individual teachers and the school to catch up. It's very nice of St. Mary's and Dr. Hopkins to make us a part of this grant. We are at least aware of what's out there. We have acquired some skills, and I am positive that this experience is improving the teaching and learning at Higher Ground Academy. We hope will be considered when such opportunities are available in the future. Again, on behalf of the children, on behalf of the staff, thank you. Thank you, St. Mary's. Thank you, Dr. Hopkins. And thank you all. Thank you so much. We hope you will consider us again next year.
Thank you.
Okay.